listen carefully, calm down, and I'm going, what the heck is going on? He was more upset.
Good morning. We're going to go ahead and call the June 4th land use meeting to order. We have the invocation by the Reverend D. Graham, followed by the Pledge of Allegiance. Please stand.
Let us pause for a moment of appreciation. Wind that whispers through the willow trees, sun that sustains us, a smile shared and savored, a child's squeal of delight as she dances in the daisies and the daffodils, the quiet joy of gathered community. This is the great spirit of life and of love that we call forth now into this gathering. May this spirit infuse our hearts, fill our souls, and carry us forward like a wave on the ocean. As we enter now into this sacred time and space, come, let us work together to make our community a better home. Amen.
Amen.
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Okay, Robin, I think we have many changes to the agenda. Would you like to?
Yes, Madam
go
Chair,
over them?
we do. I will be happy to go through those. First one is to item number 5, which is LDCT-14-06, Ordinance 15-03, is the Land Development Code Text Amendment Manufacturing Development Plan Program. The first public hearing is to be continued to August 6, 2015 at 9 a.m. or as soon thereafter. Same may be heard. And the second public hearing would be moved to September 3rd, 2015. For item number 7, which is PDMU-06-16, P, R6, University Groves, changes to staff report, surrounding uses and zoning. To the west, medical offices, which is the University Health Park, not Medical Park, zone PDO, planned office development, and under the construction, single-family detached subdivisions, University Groves, zoned PDMU, development mixed use. Public comment letter attached. For item number 9, which is 15-01, Z, P, Soho Mendoza LLC, Willow Hammock, updated information, the noise guide book published by HUD with an updated, published February 2nd, 2013, as reference in stipulation 4.A.4, which is attached, and change to the staff report correcting wetland acreage as 10.09 acres. In some parts of the staff report, the actual wetland acreage is 12.40. And to item number 10, which is LDA-14-04, Ordinance 15-01, Local Development Agreement for Trevesta, revised background and discussion in strike-through and underlined format. And those are the changes.
Okay, thank you. All right, at this time, we're going to go ahead and move to the consent agenda. We only have one item on the consent agenda. Would anyone like that item pulled? Okay, so we'll go to citizen comments on the consent agenda. Again, there's only one item on there, the waiver of street numbering. Anyone would like to make a comment in regard to that item? Go ahead and open the public hearing. Why don't you go ahead and read the item for the record, Robin?
I apologize.
I'll go ahead and read it. It's the waiver of street numbering for Soho Mendoza Willohammock subdivision. So I've opened the public hearing. There's no one come forward, so I'll go ahead and close the public hearing on that. What is the
Motion to approve.
Second.
Okay, We have a motion and a second. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, nay. Chair votes aye, motion passes unanimously. Okay, next we're going to go to citizen comments. This is a time when citizens have the opportunity to come before us and comment on anything they'd like to see on a future agenda. Nothing that's on this agenda, but something you might like to see the board take up on the future. So is there anyone that would like to make any citizen comments to the board at this time? Again, this is on, nothing that's on this agenda, but on something that you'd like to see on a future agenda. But if it's on this agenda, you'll get a time. But if you, okay? Okay, if it's on this agenda, you'll get an opportunity. Okay, seeing nobody come forward, I'm going to go ahead and close that portion of citizen comments. We're going to go right into the advertised public hearings. We have quite a few items that are on presentations upon request. We will go ahead and open each one of these individually, and you can let me know if you want to have a presentation. So I'll go ahead and go to Robin, if you would go ahead and read into the record these items one by one, and we'll open the public hearings.
Okay, Madam Chair. Item number 3 is...
Oh, I'm sorry, first, I would skip this part. First, we have to go to the swearing in. You'd think I'd know better, but
It's okay.
How long did you work here?
the move.
Everyone.
Do you swear or affirm that the factual statements and factual representations which you're about to present to this board will be truthful and accurate? I'll read the rules and procedures. The applicant is entitled to 15 minutes for rebuttal and 15 minutes for presentation and 5 minutes for rebuttal. Individuals may speak for 3 minutes, and anyone representing a group or organization of 5 or more members may speak for 10 minutes. If you represent a group, please state the group you represent and provide written authority to speak on behalf of the group. When you step to the podium, please state your name and whether or not you've been sworn. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. All right. Robin, item number 3.
Yes, ma'am. Item number 3 is Z-14-05. This is 24/7 Development Holdings LLC, SR 70 and 66th rezone. This is to be continued to August 6, 2015. Item number 4 is PDR-14-19G, Twin Rivers Phase 4.
Let's go ahead and do
Have
these
to
one by
open it?
one.
Oh, you wanna do
Let's
one
go
by
ahead,
one?
yeah, because I
Okay.
need to open the public hearing. There's different things happening, so we'll go ahead and do
Okay.
them one by one. All right, the first item is number 3, and that is a public hearing. I will go ahead and open the public comment. Is there anyone that'd like to address the board on item number 3, which is going to be continued to August 6th? Okay, seeing nobody come forward, I'm going to go ahead and close, or actually, we're going to continue the public comment to August 6th. So do I have a motion?
So moved.
Second.
Okay, we have a motion and a second. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, nay. Chair votes aye. Motion passes unanimously. Next item is PDR 14-19.
Madam Chair, this note was PDR-14-19 is Twin River Phase 4C and 5. This is also to be continued to August 6, 2015.
Okay. Anyone who'd like to address the board on PDR 14-19G, I'm going to open the public hearing. Okay, seeing nobody come forward, we're going to go ahead and continue this public hearing to August 6, 2015. Do I have a motion to do so?
So moved.
Okay, we have a motion and a second. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, nay. Chair votes aye, motion passes unanimously. Item number 5 also looks like it's being continued. Go
Yes,
ahead and
Madam
read
Chair. Item number 5 is LDCT-14-06, which is ordinance number 15-03, Land Development Code Text Amendment, Manufactured Development Plan Program. This is to be continued to August 6, 2015, with the second hearing to be September 3rd, 2015.
Okay. Is there anyone that would like to address the board on LDCT 14-06, Ordinance 1503? Go ahead and open the public hearing. Okay, seeing nobody come forward, we're going to go ahead and continue this also to the August 6th date. Do I have a motion to do so?
So moved.
Second.
Motion and second. All those in favor?
Madam Chair, why, can I ask why? Because we'd gone through this through our briefing,
Which one is that?
number 5.
Why is number 5 being
Madam
continued?
Chair, it needs to be re-advertised to revise the map for the geographic area and some text.
Okay.
So,
It's just a public hearing notice requirement.
okay, just make sure that we correct an
Yes.
advertising
Thank
issue.
you.
Okay. All right. We have a motion and a second. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, nay. Chair votes aye, motion passes. Okay, item number 6.
Item number 6, Madam Chair, is PDO-05-08, paren P, paren R. This is Sammy's Small World Office Park. This is amending ordinance PDO-05-08, paren Z, paren P, pertaining to approximately 1.08 acres on the north side of Talavas Road at 3629 Talavas Road, Sarasota, in the PDO WP-E, which is the Plan Development Office, Evers Reservoir Watershed Protection Overlay Zoning District, providing for the approval of an amended preliminary site plan to reduce the minimum side yard and rear yard setbacks, providing for amendment of stipulations relating to the amended preliminary site plan, and amending the total acreage of the site previously depicted as 1.04 acres.
Okay, would anyone like a full presentation on this application? Okay, I'm going to ask for any disclosure of ex parte communication. Has there been any ex parte communication? I have to admit, I drive by this site almost every day on my way to work.
Ditto.
So, okay, well, at this time, I'm going to go ahead and open the public hearing on item number 6. Is there anyone that would like to address the board on item number 6, PDO 05-08? Okay, seeing no one come forward, I'm going to go ahead and close the public hearing on PDO 05-08.
Motion to approve.
Second.
Okay, we have a motion and a second. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, nay. Chair votes aye. Motion passes unanimously.
Madam Chair, whoever did this had a very creative name, because every time I see it, I think it's
So
something
cute.
other than what it is. Yeah.
Well, it is a daycare.
Daycare.
The main part
No,
is a
I know,
daycare.
I know, I know.
It's a small, small world.
Yeah, something like that.
Okay, item number 7.
Item number 7, Madam Chair, is PDMU-06-16, paren P, paren R6. This is University Groves. This is an amended ordinance number PDMU-06-16, paren P, paren R5, pertaining to approximately 142.15 acres on the north side of University Parkway and west of Tuttle Avenue, extending approximately 1,000 feet west of Shade Avenue and northward to the southern boundary of the Oak Grove subdivision in the PDMU Plan Developed Mixed-Use Zoning District, providing for the approval of an amended preliminary site plan to reduce the minimum setback for parking areas along University Parkway west of the project entrance from 110 feet to 40 feet, and to remove some of the existing trees in this area and provide for the amendment of stipulation 3J related to the amended preliminary site plan.
Okay, would anyone like a full presentation on this item? Okay. Doesn't look like anyone would like a full presentation, so,
Just have one question from staff
okay.
regarding this, but I don't want a presentation.
Okay. Has there been any ex parte communication? I will say that since they moved Starbucks over here, I do visit the site. As we know, ex parte communication includes visits to the site, so I have been to the site. I have ridden my bike around the site, so I'm very familiar with it and familiar with what's going on, and I also have a question for staff on this. Since we're not going to have a full presentation, I guess we can just go ahead and ask our questions now, Carol?
If you're doing ex parte, my husband's mailbox is still there from his medical practice, so I drive by once a month too. I do drive by it. So, but no, my question was, and I want staff, this development still does not trigger that street light, correct? Shade and University? Somebody? And I asked this during the briefing, I just want it on public record, and the people that do this know that I ask this every time, so.
Good morning. For the record, Clark Davis, Transportation Planning Division Manager, and I have been sworn. The part of the project that's before you today is part of a prior approval, and the requirement to look at the need for a traffic light at the shade intersection comes with the next site plan that they submit, which
Got it. Okay.
expect to be imminent.
Just want to know public. Thank you. That's all I have.
And Robin?
Yes, go by the site all the time, and it's great to see all the development and activity in South County along University, and a lot of eateries and shops and things, so it's great, and thank you for contributing to the economy of the county and South County.
And I had talked to Joel about this, and my concern was about, this area there were some trees in there, and I know that I just want to make sure we're meeting the land development code requirements. There's no changes from that they're going to have to provide the required buffer along the frontage of this newly reoriented parking lot, because we have some very nice buffers along University Parkway there, and I just want to make sure that we continue and get some nice shade trees in there, because it's hot. And shade helps. So.
Joel Christian for the record, and yes, they're going to be continuing that buffer they have out there already. That'll be along the front of here. We'll include canopy trees. Any of the trees that are removed for this parking lot expansion are required to be planted in that buffer around that stormwater lake up front there.
Okay, so so there's no specific approval to change any of the requirements. This isn't an entranceway, so we'll have to have additional landscaping out there. Is that correct?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, I want to make sure of that, because I know they're new trees and it's going to take them a while, but we need to have some more shade trees up there. So, okay, at this time I'm going to go ahead and open the public hearing on this. Is there anyone who would like to address the board on this plan development, PDMU 06-16? Okay. Seeing no one come forward, I'm going to go ahead and close the public hearing.
Motion to approve.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. No changes to the STIP, so just changes to the background information. Is that right?
Yes.
Okay. We have a motion and a second. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, nay. Chair votes aye. Motion passes. Okay, moving right along. Item number 8.
Madam Chair, item number 8 is LDA-14-02, It's the First Amendment and restatement of local development agreement for OK Willow Walk, LLC Willow Walk. And this is approval of an amendment to the local development agreement, LDA-14-02, providing that a CLOS for the project may be extended pursuant to Manatee County Land Development Regulations 510.9.2.1.1, allowing for an alternative connection deviating from the North County wastewater system master plan and requiring payment of a line capacity fee, against which only those portions of the alternative connection that can be utilized by the county for future components or non-site related improvements may be credited, and providing for the location and dedication of utility easements to accommodate additional wastewater service facilities, providing for reservation of line capacity for wastewater service for 718 residential units in Phase 1 and Phase 2 of the development project, providing the applicant shall dedicate property for the right-of-way for the extension of 49th Avenue and construct related storm water capacity improvements, allowing county to grant to the applicant impact fee credits for the design, permitting, construction, and/or dedication of such right-of-way and stormwater capacity improvements in such amounts as authorized by ordinance, and providing for impact fee credits. The local development agreement applies to Willow Walk development, for which approval was granted on September 4th, 2014 pursuant to an application known as PDR-14-04(Z)(P), which was 272.36 acres. The proposed use of the property is single-family detached residential development. Willow Walk was approved for a maximum of 718 detached residential units and an amenity center with maximum height of 35 feet and a net density of 3 dwelling units per acre. The site is located in the Planned Development Residential District, Zoning District, and generally bound by Mendoza Road on the south, Ellington Gillette Road on the west, and Experimental Farm Road on the north.
Okay, would anyone like a full presentation on this application? Beyond what we've already had? Okay, hearing no one pull it off, we'll go ahead and ask, has there been any ex parte communication from any of the board members on this item? Nothing, okay. All right, we're going to go ahead and open the public hearing on item number 8. Is there anyone who would like to address the board on item number 8, Willow Walk? Please come forward and state your name for the record and whether or not you've been sworn.
I'm James McKinney, and I represent the Oak Creek community, and I have been sworn in. I'm addressing item number 8, but I'm also referring to item number 9 because...
Keep your comments for item number 9. You'll get an opportunity because we have to keep them separate as
Well,
public.
okay, I'm gonna, then I'll address it under 8.
Okay.
But and I'm just going to have a short concern that I want to register, and I've already put it in writing, so it'll be part of the record. The concern is with the Willow Walk and the Willow Hammock and the Trees Direct communities that are being built along Mendoza Road. It's going to add about 1,500 home units and also have an impact on the traffic along that stretch of the road of Mendoza where it intersects with Ellington Gillette. Our concern is about that traffic. We've registered that with, at previous meetings. I've registered it with Stephanie Moreland in the past, and I just want to go on record so it can be made part of the record here that we don't see that although there has been a traffic survey, that we don't see that any plans are being made to help ameliorate this predictable traffic quagmire along that stretch of the road. And we want to register that concern, and I've given a written statement to that effect. That's all I want to do.
Okay. Thank you.
Okay.
Right. Is there anyone else who'd like to address the board on this LDA for Willow Walk at this time? This is your opportunity. Please come forward. All right. Seeing no one else come forward, I'm going to go ahead and close the public hearing. I have a couple of commissioners on the board. First, Commissioner DiSabatino.
That was from before, but I do have a couple. We are not, this has already been approved.
Right.
And we're just working on the sewer and lines. So it's already been approved, so it's something we can do at this point.
Commissioner Smith, were you on the board for this?
No, Madam Chair, I was on previously, but I'm fine.
All right. Could staff just maybe briefly go over what are the proposed transportation improvements? I know we're just updating at this time the connection, but are you prepared to do that or not? Not.
Good morning. For the record, Clark Davis, Transportation Planning Division Manager. The Willow Walk subdivision had no off-site concurrency improvements. They'll be making improvements at their driveway entrances on Ellington, Gillette, and Mendoza Road, basically turn lanes to and from the site to make sure that the turning traffic slowing down on the road doesn't interfere with the operation.
Point of
the roads.
order, the gentleman that's concerned isn't hearing you, because I don't think he's listening, but you're answering his question and he hasn't. Can you start over? Because now I think he is listening.
I asked him the question about the transportation improvements. So
Right.
we're talking about transportation improvements. You might want to, because I did ask him, sorry, I didn't realize that. Thank you, Carol. Yeah, we just asked about what transportation, and even though, as Commissioner DiSabatino pointed out, this is just solely amendment to deal with the issue of connection to the wastewater treatment, I just asked the question if staff knew what were the required improvements in regards to transportation.
Thank you. The off-site, there were no off-site transportation improvements required for the Willow Walk subdivision. The improvements were found to be necessary at their project entrances only. That's a subdivision entrance just south of the extension of 49th, at the extension of Experimental Farm Road, and then confusingly enough, the North-South Road on the east side is also 49th. they have an entrance just west of there, and there are improvements there. They are dedicating a portion of 49th under the terms of the LDA, but it wasn't required to mitigate their site impacts. Willow Hammock, the subject of an upcoming hearing, if approved, would have conditions requiring improvements at their intersection. They are using 49th and Mendoza as an access point. Trees Direct approval was long enough ago, I don't remember their improvements. The Travesta development that's also been approved is contributing to improvements on Ellington Gillette Road and 69th, as well as building part of 60th. The county has in the capital improvement program a project we call a functional improvement, basically bringing the two-lane section of Ellington Gillette Road up to current standards, providing turn lanes at intersections where it's feasible. The functional improvements tend to be small scale and have very little funding set aside for them for rights of way, so we often can't make all the turn lane improvements we'd like to, but we do the best we can with what we've got. And then finally, we're working on an improvement at the US 301 and Ellington Gillette intersection. So it's an area we're paying attention to and trying to make improvements as we can. It's just now some of it's coming into the CIP and getting developed.
I knew we had talked about that in regards to the next one, so that's why I thought it might be helpful for you to go over that at this time. Okay, I don't have anyone else on the board, and we've closed the public comments, so what is the desire of the board at this time?
There's no action. No action is required.
In the first of two
I'm sorry.
required public hearings.
This is the first of two required public hearings. We will have the second public hearing. When will the second public hearing be on this?
June 16th?
Oh, yeah,
That's soon.
he was at the,
June 16th, so that'll be the second public hearing when we'll take action, so
was the
either
guy
come
that
back or
officer
we
had
have your
the score.
comments for the record. Okay, all right, then moving right along. The next thing we're under is advertised public hearings, presentations scheduled. Item number 9, you would read that into the record.
Madam Chair, item number 9 is PDR-15-01(Z)(P), which is Soho Mendoza LLC Willow Hammock. There's rezone of approximately 147.93 acres from A1 suburban agricultural, one dwelling unit per acre, to PDR, Planned Development Residential Zoning District, providing for a preliminary site plan for 299 lots for single-family detached residences on the west side of I-75 and north side of Mendoza Road at 5000 37th Street East, Ellington.
I would like a full presentation.
Yeah, this is on presentation, so we'll give a full presentation. And
Good
Stephanie?
morning, Madam Chair and other members of the Board of County Commissioners. I am Stephanie Moreland, and I have been sworn. The applicant is going to come forward now with their presentation, and then staff will follow with a presentation as well.
Good morning, Madam Chair and County Commissioners. I am Rachel Layton with ZNS Engineering, and I have been sworn. We're here today seeking recommendation for approval of a rezone to Planned Development Residential to preliminary site plan standards on behalf of the applicant Soho Mendoza. Do we have my? Okay. So with us here today, we have Nathan Crott and Jeb Mullock with ZNS Engineering, James Brierley with Soho Mendoza, who's representing the applicant. I think we have someone here from Eco Consultants. And we have Caleb Grimes with Grimes Goebel here this morning. The project is located on approximately 147 acres of land, located at the northwest corner of I-75 and Mendoza Road and a designated entranceway. Development trends for this area include numerous planned development neighborhoods, including Willow Walk and Willow Trail, which are in the permitting stages. The site was previously used as a tree farm and has both Florida Power and Light easements and railroad bisecting the property. The property has a future land use category of Res 3 and Res 6. 113.2 acres are within the Res 3 category, and 34.73 are in the Res 6 category. And we're actually not proposing anything in the Res 6 category as when I get to that part of the development plan. As you can see from the future land use map, this area is one of transition between UF3, Res 3, and Res 6, which allows for densities between 3 and 6 homes per acre. The project proposed is 299 lots on 147 acres. The gross density for this project is proposed at 2.02 dwelling units per acre. Because there are two future land use categories on the site, the project must meet the gross density compliance requirements of the comprehensive plan. The project is below the allowable limit, which is actually 548 lots, and we're proposing 299, which meets that criteria. Special approvals are required for projects within the entranceway, projects adjacent to a perennial stream, and dwelling units over 2 in the Res 3 category. By rezoning the property to planned development, we are requesting these special approvals and are in compliance with the Land Development Code and the comprehensive plan. The property is currently zoned A1 suburban agriculture, which permits 1 dwelling unit per acre. However, planned development residential projects have been approved throughout the area of Mendoza Road and north along I-75. It's almost just becoming a pocket where this property is zoned A1. We have a number of nearby project development approvals, and these range from Ellington Pines and Tuscany Lakes. Tuscany Lakes is the oldest at 1999 with 350 and 129 single-family dwelling units. The highest density was Trees Direct, and that's appropriate. It's in the Res 6 category, and it's proposed. It was approved for 6 dwelling units per acre. We've got Travesta and Willow Walk and Willow Trail and Woodland Hammock, all nearby. This range of density allows for single-family housing products, a variety of them, and this variety of housing is something that's encouraged by your comprehensive plan. The Willow Hammock site plan, I couldn't fit it all on the screen. So north is off to your left, and that the interstate is along the eastern boundary of the property. But again, the site plan proposes 299 single-family detached dwelling units on approximately 147 acres. Again, the gross density is 2.02 dwelling units per acre, and the net density is 2.3 dwelling units per acre, which is allowed under Res 3. The project was designed with Comprehensive Plan Policy 2.9.1 strong communities in mind. The proposed project is a logical progression of residential development. I want to spend a little bit of time talking about the project buffers for this because I think it's going to play into later discussions. The project buffers include 20 feet along Mendoza Road, 20 feet along the extension of 49th Avenue East, and 100 feet along I-75. The northern portion of the property is proposed for native habitat preservation, wetland preservation, and stormwater and floodplain management. That's why I wanted to kind of leave this section of the slide on, so you can see this northern portion is really going to be maintained as much as we can in its natural state, but we want to use some of it for stormwater and floodplain. And that's all north of the railroad track. Mm-hmm. So this is again kind of a closer up view of the site plan. Sections of the 100-foot wide I-75 buffer will utilize existing vegetation because there are some beautiful trees there that we would like to preserve in that 100 feet. Some of those were part of the tree farm, but some of them are part of a natural hammock that's out there. Where no vegetation exists, we're proposing a combination berm and wall with a height of 15 feet and a width of 60 feet to be located within that 100-foot buffer. A berm and wall will also be designed within the 20-foot buffer along Mendoza Road. The main entrance to the project is going to be from the extension of 49th Avenue East. And we have been working very closely with the folks at Willow Walk and the county to make sure that we're designing this in a way that's appropriate. And so our main entrance will be off of 49th Avenue East, and we're going to build that section of the roadway. And we'll also have dedicated turn lanes from off of Mendoza Road onto 49th Avenue East. We met with Mr. Kinney early on in the process when we had our neighborhood meeting, and we wanted to make sure that they understood the design parameters that would be included in the project because the folks that came to that neighborhood meeting weren't immediate adjacent neighbors. They saw the sign and they came to the meeting, and all of them had concerns. They were from Colony Cove, from Oak Creek, from other surrounding neighborhoods east of I-75, and their concerns were traffic related. We worked with county staff at length on the traffic and the transportation improvements that we were willing to provide for the project. Their larger concern were all of the projects, not just this project, but all of the other project approvals. So we spent a lot of time talking with them about everything that's kind of coming in that area. And then we followed back up with them afterwards with personal notes from Mr. Brierly. What we're also proposing with this internal street network is an emergency access along 49th Avenue East from this middle driveway that we've got here, this connection. So that's going to be an emergency access to connect back there. But we've got a boulevard section, and then we have a nice street network. We've got actually 2 roads connecting to the northern section of the project. The street network will be 50 feet wide internal roadways with 24-foot width of pavement in accordance with Manatee County requirements. 88.03 acres are provided as open space for a total of 59.5% open space where 30% is required. The site contains right now 33.13 acres of native habitat. What we're designating for native habitat preservation in the after condition is 31.83 acres. So we were able to do quite a bit to preserve the native habitat. There are approximately 12.4 acres of wetland on site. We were not proposing any impacts to the wetlands or the wetland buffers with this design. There are no listed species on the site, and again, this was previously used for tree farm and landscape nursery. The lot sizes we're proposing are 40 by 120 and 50 by 120, with 25 front yard setbacks, 5-foot side yard setbacks, and 15-foot rear yard setbacks. We'll also have the required wetland buffer setbacks and waterfront setbacks as required by code. I actually want to take a break here and let you guys know we're not asking for any specific approvals with this project, only the special approvals that are required through the PD process. The proposed recreational amenities may include a resort-style pool and bathhouse structure with an outdoor deck, children's playground, and nature trails for passive recreation opportunities. We've actually left a number of different areas where we can implement these amenities. We've got one right off of the front entrance and one on the other side of the pond, and then one adjacent to the larger wetlands going to be preserved. So we really took some time in thinking about how we could add some amenities to this project. The traffic impact analysis was approved by Manatee County. Manatee County School District provided confirmation that available capacity exists within Service Area 2 for elementary schools and Service Area 1 for middle and high schools. Again, we had that neighborhood meeting on March 9th with 9 residents coming to that meeting, and they were from other communities. We had one neighbor that was adjacent to Willow Walk who had some concerns, and we talked through the project in detail, but their focus was traffic on Mendoza Road. We've worked closely with staff throughout the process, and more so in the last few days. The request received a positive staff report. The proposed project is compatible and consistent with development trends in the area. Planning Commission voted to approve this by 4-0 on the consent agenda at the May 14th hearing. And we've been working very hard on a lot of these stipulations, and I'm sure that you may have heard during briefings and noticed the agenda packet has a lot of information on noise. And this morning, we finished working with the county attorney's office and Mr. Meyer on a revised stipulation that uses the staff's proposed stipulation and modifies it so that it allows for achievable and measurable goals. What we're understanding is that it may be acceptable, the proposed stipulation. I think you guys all got a copy of it in front of you. If you would like, I can read it into the record.
Yeah.
Okay.
That'd be good.
Okay. So then, again, this is based off of the staff's original proposed stipulation, and it's minor modifications. And we I can't say this enough. We really appreciate how much staff has worked with us on this item because it was of great concern to the applicant, and it has been countless hours over the last several weeks of staff's time to work with us to get here. So the proposed revision reads, prior to final site plan approval, a noise analysis shall be done based on the potential 10-lane configuration of I-75 and anticipated traffic in 2025 to determine the potential noise level and noise reduction measures that are required. And it keeps in all of the criteria for the decibel levels. Those are no residential dwelling units shall be allowed in areas where the exterior noise level is LDA greater than 65 dBA. LCQ design hour greater than 65 dBA or L10 design hour greater than 68 dBA, unless protected by some performance equivalent measure to achieve those same numbers. Or, and this is what we've inserted, or by instituting noise reduction measures which may include but which shall not be limited to the following: sound attenuating barriers, attenuation shall be provided between the residential units and the noise. Living areas shall be located and designed in a manner which orients the living areas and outdoor activity areas away from the noise source. Living areas include bedrooms, lanais, and Florida rooms. Buildings shall be positioned to maximize the distance between the residential units and the noise source. And again, I spoke to you at length about what will be in that 100-foot buffer along I-75 to help with those noise attenuating measures.
If I may, Madam Chair, to be back on Ms. Layton's comments, The basic change to the stipulation that we discussed with staff and the applicant's attorney, Mr. Grimes, was to require a noise analysis that not only determines the exterior noise decibel level, but if it exceeds 65 dBA, that the noise reduction measures are specified in that study, as opposed to staff being left to figure out what noise reduction is required.
So there's really no
Applies to
substantive
study.
change.
It clarifies.
Intent of the stipulation, it just clarifies a little bit kind of the mechanisms to achieve it.
Correct, correct.
Okay,
Good.
Okay.
right.
And, oh, I missed that slide, but I talked about it. Noise stipulation talked about it. We respectfully request approval of the application to rezone the property to plan development with the preliminary site plan today. If you have any questions, I'm available to answer any of them along with my team.
Okay, before we go to questions, I'm going to ask, has there been any ex parte communication by my board members on this application? Okay, all right. So do we have questions for the applicant? Commissioner Whitmore.
I just have two. I see there's two accesses, correct?
There, in the future, there will be three with the complete build-out of 49th Avenue East. For right now, we're proposing one with a full boulevard access into the project, and then the second one, the middle entrance, will have an emergency access connection so that way we're providing that connection for the emergency vehicles, fire, and EMS.
And I know when, years ago, when Ron Getman had really pushed for it in the past, and we've tended to get away from it because other neighbors didn't want it or new developments didn't want it. They didn't. Is there any kind of connectivity between the potential of Willow Walk and Willow Trail subdivision? I don't think there is. And is there anything?
Unfortunately, it's not. The way that 49th Avenue East extends,
can.
it's on the borders of everyone's properties, which is good because it provides
A road.
really the mechanism for what I think we're looking for the inter-neighborhood connections, but it's not a direct connection between the two properties.
Okay. And I don't think I've ever seen, since I've been up here, and I realize it's the configuration of your property, but 59.5% of open space. So 40% of the property you're going to use for development.
Correct.
Yeah. So that's rare. But again, I probably, it's because of, I'm sure, the configuration of your property. But that at least needs to be recognized because I don't think I've ever seen it since I've been here, that high.
Okay, Commissioner Smith.
Yes, Madam Chair. I want to ask the Assistant County Attorney, this document that you gave us, basically dealing with prior final site plan approval, noise analysis should be done based on potential. Has it been done, or what are they asking for in it? I mean, I'm confused.
Well, we have, in the past, in 2008, the former planning director commissioned a study that requested the board to say what kind of buffers and berms are required when single-family homes are near major roads, and I-75 is, of course, one of the major roads, and thoroughfare roads. I put that in the record in the back for background. And basically, it cites to the HUD guidelines, and in 2013, the update memo, I apologize for the length, HUD decided that the dBA outside should be 65, which is interesting because all our stipulation says 65 outside. So the point is to have that backyard habitable for people. And if it's not 65, if it's above that dBA, then mitigation measures are required. And that's what our stipulation says, but it wasn't really clear how you determine what mitigation measures are. And the applicant was proposing a specified type of buffer, but we discussed with staff, and we don't know if the buffer at this point will work or not, because we're not noise experts, and neither is anyone on the board. And I advised the applicant I didn't want the board to put in a position of having to determine a buffer at this point, because we don't know what would bring the noise level to acceptable level, unless they hire an expert. So the applicant was working diligently on tweaking the stipulations. So basically, it clarifies that the noise analysis will be submitted prior to final site plan approval, and it will document the decibel level for potential 10-lane I-75 and anticipated traffic 2025. And I spoke with Clark Davis, and he said our comprehensive plan does still list I-75 as 10 lanes, so that's consistent with the projected width of the road. And if the exterior noise level exceeds 65 dBA, then sound attenuating barriers will be constructed as per the noise study, which may include some sort of wall and landscaping and a berm, I assume, in some format.
Okay, but shouldn't that discussion take place now?
Well, we don't have the noise study yet, and I'll ask Mr. Meyer if there's any comment on that. Are you satisfied with having the noise analysis prior to final site plan approval?
As long as we have the clarification that's in this stipulation, Commissioner, it provides that an expert provide both us and the applicant with the mitigation measures that are needed, and so we can follow their recommendation. So it's not something that we as staff or this board probably is qualified to discuss. So it's probably just better left to an expert. I've been doing this 40 years, and I never have understood the details of noise studies. But as long as it's done and the expert provides us with the mitigation to achieve this level, we should be good.
So if I could help clarify, so this is basically a standard stipulation that we have required in other type of zoning site plan approvals when we're adjacent to the interstate.
Since
Because we want to make
2008.
sure that the site plan, which is proposing residential development, is compatible with the interstate, which we know causes noise. So this is the way that is this correct, that this is the way that we ensure compatibility? Is this stipulation?
This is what we've been doing consistently since this study was done in 2008. We've used this stipulation, which came out of the study. They did point out to us, and we had to agree that there was some ambiguity in the language. This simply clarifies it to their satisfaction and our satisfaction. So we're recommending that it be amended accordingly and adopted as part of this.
And if I might help Charles a little bit, so what I've heard the applicants say, and I can clarify again, that they're proposing a 100-foot buffer with a berm and a wall that's going to be 15 feet. So that is what they think, without having a study to prove it, they think that will be able to mitigate the noise. Is that something that we've seen happen elsewhere in the county?
We have, but as we pointed out to them, without an expert
It's noise study.
doing a study, we're in the dark as to whether or not that would adequately protect the citizens. And so that's kind of been the point we've been discussing back and forth. We want the experts to tell us what's necessary in order to protect the citizens. We feel this language clarifies that stipulation to give them the assurance they want that they aren't going to be arbitrarily required to do a lot of things that they don't feel they should have to do, and it gives us the assurance that we get a study that provides us with the adequate and expertise behind any stipulations or requirements for noise attenuation.
Well, shouldn't we have that study now? You know, if you ride down the interstate, if you go down Naples and you see people erecting walls 30 feet high after the fact because of the noise, and you also go to Atlanta, you just see them constructing massive walls because of complaints from residents of noise. So I'm concerned about the fact that if we don't have a noise study, what happens if there's serious noise and the residents go to complaining?
Well,
They
Commissioner,
come complain to us, or they go to the builder or the developer, they ask us to erect that wall?
and that's why we're requesting, we will not allow anything to happen on this site without the noise study and the required attenuation requirements of that study being implemented. That's what it allows staff to do. So that's the only assurance I can give you here, is that we're required by this stipulation to ensure that what you're concerned about does not happen.
They have to.
And do we feel, because Commissioner Smith brings up very valid concerns, and I'm sure that most of us brought these up in our briefing as well, that our concern in protecting the public and making sure also that the taxpayers, whether they be state or federal, are not going to be on the hook for providing a noise barrier. Do we feel we have that with the notifications that we require in this? I know we're getting off of answering, but I'm going to ask the applicant that. So, because we're at applicant
There we go.
questions. I mean,
Madam
I
Chairman.
want to make sure that when we're protecting our public, that we in fact, that you are going to have this noise study and that you're going to have to build a noise barrier so that the federal government doesn't have to come in after the fact and build a noise barrier.
Madam Chairman, Caleb Grimes, I have been sworn. That is absolutely the purpose of this stipulation. What Commissioner Smith points out is accurate. There were instances where projects built up and down the interstate and the federal government had to come back and build something, and that's because those projects did not have this stipulation or one like it. And so what we normally do is at zoning level, and this is entirely consistent with what we've been doing for the last few years to assure that all projects take care of noise issues. And you've seen a lot of projects come through that have that they're putting in the walls today, and they're putting the berms in, and they're doing the setbacks. And one of the other things that is generally done is where there is a noise issue, homes are built differently. You know, they have the triple panes, they have the relocation of how the living area is, and all of those kind of things. So this stipulation is one that we have been using. And I will tell you that as you know, I represent a few clients in this county that do some development, and we found that there were some that the stipulation was not completely clear in a few areas, but to be consistent with the way the studies are coming out and the way it's been done. So we merely asked to clarify this stipulation to be consistent with what we are actually doing here in the county to protect against noise. As you can tell by the presentation, not just because of the county stipulation, but this developer is very cognizant of buying a piece near the interstate. Today, people are very cognizant of it, and so you have to do the noise mitigation measures anyway. So we have no problem with this. It is appropriate to do it before final site plan or with your final site plan, because that precedes building any homes. It precedes there being anyone in there before the noise mitigation is determined. And so that is what we are doing. This is no different. And what we will do is then determine where the LD 65 line is, and then after that, determine what mitigative measures are made to protect the homes, whether they be moving the line with berms and walls, or building homes and locating them in a way to take care of the mitigation. And that's what's in this stipulation, and it is what we've been doing. And it's so that the government doesn't get stuck with it and you guys don't get stuck with complaints.
Okay, next up I have Commissioner DeSabatino.
Yes, thank you. I know we're all concerned with this. What would happen if the study came back because of the extra, the 10 lanes, and there wouldn't be any way to mitigate with this, very, very high wall? Then what? I'm just saying, could the applicant come back and say, you required us to do the noise study, now we can't build the number of houses we want, and now they're gonna come after us for a taking? I'm just trying to cover all bases here, because we've been in this boat before.
Well, this is the best way to avoid that issue, is to have a study that shows what you do, so that the study will show that there's an ability to properly mitigate through all these different measures.
But if there's no way to mitigate?
And, well, I will tell you that we've been doing this for a long time with a lot of developments now since, what was it, this came in 07, I think, 08. And we've been able to do that. And you see up and down the interstates that the mitigation is done. So I hear what you're saying. I think it's worrying about something that will not happen, because our history has proven that it does not happen. I will have to tell you, I've not analyzed what the exact effect that would be, whether one would even have a right to a taking, because this stipulation is protecting the county in that it says you do a study and you build what the study says and you can use your property. Mm-hmm. And that is the best way, because if you were to just say you can't build anything within so many feet of the interstate, for example, you would potentially have a takings claim. So what you've said is you may build, but do the mitigation protections. And then it'll be up to us to get the mitigation protections put in place. I personally believe, and I think part of why we've worked with Ms. Shank and others on this, is that this is a way to give the developer, the landowner, the right to use their property and completely protect the county against the thing you're fearing.
Also, in any of the state's plans to widen 75, are there any plans that they would need to take any of your property?
We went through this on a lot of the I-75 up and down the interstate a few years ago. And our understanding is very strongly that the right-of-way they have is sufficient. I think they have, 500 feet there or something like that. And that there are no plans. And in fact, today, FDOT will tell you there's no plans to go to 10 lanes. And that they'll never go to 10 lanes. So but, who knows? But they have the right-of-way that would take care of the 10 lanes if they chose to do it. So the right-of-way has been resolved.
I'm asking, probably this is a question for staff regarding any other similar single-family homes 100 feet from the interstate. Do you?
Let's hold off because we're at the time for applicant questions,
Okay.
and then we're going to go to staff. So if we could,
Let me-
and just hold
let
that
me
question for.
Let me see if I had any others. The service area 1 and 2 related to the school capacity, can you explain what service areas 1 and 2 are?
I would have to defer to the
'cause you-
school district. That was, I pulled that information from the letter we received from the school board.
Okay, because you said like for elementary, it's service 1, and for the others, it's 2.
Yes, I believe it was Tillman, I don't remember what the
Lincoln and
middle school
Palmetto High.
was, and then Palmetto High School.
Right.
Okay.
So there's capacity at Lincoln Middle and Palmetto High School, and then they would have to district those students for another school other than Tillman, which is the closest school.
Okay.
But it's still capacity in that area to be able to provide school seats for these children.
And sidewalks
We're gonna have-
inside and then along Mendoza and 49th?
Where we're allowed to put the sidewalks in Mendoza Road, we will. We're abutting FDOT right-of-way in portions of that. So we worked with county staff to kind of come up with a plan to put some sidewalks on Mendoza Road so that we're having access. There will be sidewalks along 49th Avenue East and into the project. And then we're doing sidewalks on one side of all of the streets because we're not within 2 walking miles of a school.
Okay, that is all the questions I have for the applicant.
Thank you.
Okay, I have a question on 49th Avenue East. So are you providing right-of-way for 49th Avenue East?
We are not. Willow Walk has agreed to dedicate that right-of-way with their first plat. And as I understand it, that they are in the platting process now with the county.
Okay, so nowhere along your boundary line are you required to dedicate any right-of-way for 49th Avenue East?
We are not.
We need to check that.
Oh, I'm sorry. North of the railroad, we are. It's for the extension of 61st Avenue East.
Okay.
So along that northern portion that we're not proposing development, we are dedicating right-of-way to the county for that extension.
Okay, and then I'll ask staff that question. Maybe they have a map that shows where 49th Avenue East, but I wanted to hear from the applicant if there's a dedication of right-of-way first.
Yes.
Okay. All right, any other questions for the applicant at this time? Okay, we're going to go ahead to staff presentation.
Once again, I'm Stephanie Moreland, and I have been sworn, representing staff. I will go through briefly my presentation. The request before you is for a rezone and approval of a preliminary site plan for 299 lots with single-family detached residences, and the rezone is to planned development residential from A1. The physical characteristics of the site. The site, as I said, has 147.93 acres, and it is adjacent to the west side of I-75 the north side of Mendoza Road, and the east side of the future 49th Avenue East. This property is divided, and it's divided by a 170-foot wide FP&L easement on a railroad track. It has 12.40 acres of wetlands. It is adjacent to a perennial stream. It is in flood zone categories A and X, and it is more than 2 miles from a school. This location at Mendoza and I-75 is considered a designated entranceway of the county. The purpose of the entranceway, as stated in LDC Section 737, is to convey to the traveling public a strong image that Manatee County is a high-quality place to live, work, and visit. The future land use map shows the site has 2 future land use categories, Res 3 and Res 6. There are 113.20 acres in the Res 3 future land use category and 34.73 acres in Res 6. Special approval is required for a project exceeding a density of 2 dwelling units per acre in the Res 3 future land use category. Special approval is also required for a project in an entranceway and adjacent to a perennial stream. This is the zoning map, which shows that the site is zoned A1, suburban agriculture, 1 dwelling unit per acre. It shows the location of the site on the west side of I-75. To the north of the site, you can see the triangle point to the north. The site is adjacent to A1 zoning district. To the south, across Mendoza Road, the site has some A1 zoning. It is adjacent to A1 zoning, which is some agricultural going on there. There's also some planned development residential to the south. To the east, across I-75, there's the Trees Direct property, which is zoned PDMU, and that project was approved for a maximum of 500 units. To the west is the Willow Walk, the subject which you've been talking about a few minutes ago, and also Willow Trail subdivisions, PDR and RSF 3. Under transitions and compatibility, the site is in an area which is transitioning from suburban agricultural uses to residential developments. So the timing of the request for rezone appears appropriate with the growing trends in the area. Planned residential developments can be designed to be consistent with growing residential trends in the area. Planned development residential also allows the board to attach stipulations to ensure the project is compatible with the surrounding area. Policy 2.6.1.1 of the Manatee County Comprehensive Plan requires all adjacent development that differs in use, intensity, height, density, to utilize mitigation techniques, and those techniques are listed, including noise attenuation techniques. Policy 2.6.1.2 also requires the use of planned unit development in conjunction with the mitigating strategies or techniques. Rachel went over the preliminary site plan, which shows the 299 lots. It also shows you how the site is divided by the Florida Pond Light easement and also the railroad track. Oh, this doesn't look so good up there, does it? Anyway, okay, it shows, the site plan shows the 100-foot wide buffer along the west side of I-75. It also indicates a wall and a berm, but it does not indicate the size of that wall and berm. The site plan also shows 20-foot wide buffers along Mendoza Road and also along the future 49th Avenue, the future thoroughfare. This is the table 5.1 from the comprehensive plan, which shows the various segments of I-75, including this area where the site is, that it has a potential for 10 lanes in the future. Open space, as Rachel pointed out, is 30% that is required due to the entranceway. They are providing 59.5%. We went over the buffers already. And the maximum height of the structures are 35 feet. Under density compliance, Manatee Comprehensive Plan, land use operative provision, there's a formula in that provision where we determine when there's a project with 2 future land use categories, the project must meet what we call gross density compliance. In this case, the proposed density of 2.2 is consistent with that formula, and special approval is required for the gross density exceeding 2 dwelling units per acre in Res 3. Yards and setbacks, she already went over that. The minimum lot size proposed is 4,800 square feet. I have a few pictures which shows the site along I-75. I-75 with north and southbound traffic. This is the project across I-75, the Trees Direct site. It's a picture from Mendoza Road. And this is Mendoza Road looking east. Mendoza Road looking west. The site is off to the right. And this is the Tuscany Lakes Apartments, which is on the southeast across Mendoza Road and I-75.
Just walked out.
He'll be back.
And here's the site again from Mendoza Road. This is the agricultural use across Mendoza Road to the south. And to the west, this is the recently approved Willow Walk subdivision, which is under construction.
He's coming to get up here and talk.
Under positive aspects, adequate open space is being provided. As I stated before, the nearby area is transitioning to residential developments with agricultural uses, and the rezone is considered a logical expansion of PDR zoning to the west and south. Under negative aspect and concern, future residents may be negatively impacted by the noise from I-75 and any agricultural uses. Manatee County Comprehensive Plan Objective 2.6.1 requires compatibility through screening, buffering, setbacks, and other mitigative measures. It requires suitable separation between adjacent land uses to reduce the possibility of adverse impacts to residents and visitors, and to protect the public health and to provide for strong communities. Next slide, please. Okay. Under mitigating measures, staff recommends the inclusion of language in the notice to buyers informing homeowners of the presence of neighboring agricultural uses, including the use of pesticides and herbicides, and of odors and noises usually associated with agricultural uses and noise from traffic. Staff recommends stipulation A4 for the noise, which is being revised by the applicant and our legal and my supervisor. Under citizens' comments or concerns, one phone call we received from the gentleman that was here earlier, and that was concerning traffic in the area. Oops, can we go back? Thank you. Staff recommends approval with stipulations. Planning Commission recommended approval on the consent agenda at the hearing held on May 14, 2015. That concludes my presentation.
Thank you. All right. Any questions for staff at this time? Commissioner DiSabatino.
Yes, I had asked earlier about
Oh, yes.
other communities that are within 100 feet for single-family residential.
The Tuscany Lakes apartment is on the east side of I-75. I do have a plan here which shows that their structures are about 100 feet as a setback from I-75. That project was done some time ago. That is in our staff report on the date of that project. We do have some other subdivisions. We have Crystal Lakes. I don't know what the size of that, but, oh, they had a 50-foot wide roadway buffer. They also, though, had the noise stipulation, a different language, a variation of the language of the present noise stipulation. There are other subdivisions along the interstate that have, walls and fences, as you heard earlier. River Trace is one that comes to my mind, that has the stipulation that we had in the staff report today. Since I don't have a chart for you, I am hesitant to say that these subdivisions all have a 100-foot separation from the interstate. So I'm not going to say that because I don't have it prepared. I don't want to lie to you.
Any other questions?
I might.
Okay, I've got a couple. The special approval for being in the Res 3 is for anything over 2. Did you said it was 2.02?
Yes,
So it's barely over.
barely over,
And
yes.
in the property to the north, the Res 6, what would be the special approval threshold in Res 6?
I think it's 4.5, I think.
And they have no units approved or
No, most
proposed in
of
the
Res
Res?
6, as the future land you showed, most of Res 6 is the area that has the wetlands that is not being developed.
Okay. So even though we blend for the maximum, we don't look at the special approval like that. We just look because it's all the developments in the Res 3.
Yes.
So but it's just barely exceeding that. Okay. On the school, is there anyone that can explain how the school board looks at this, and that's why the school board says there's capacity? If not, it sure would be good to get somebody from the school board who could explain that, because we're told that there's capacity on an area-wide basis. I think I understand it, but it would be nice for the public to have this explained, because there seems to be confusion, because people know their neighborhood school might be over capacity. They don't understand the area. Is there anyone here that feels they could explain that, or from staff?
I'm not going to attempt to speak for the school board, and I don't think my staff should either.
We get a letter from them?
We did get a letter from them that's included in the package, I believe.
Yeah.
It's not?
And Stephanie, can you say what that letter concluded from the school board, just for the record? That
Can I have time to pull it?
Sure.
Okay.
Sure. In the meantime, I will ask the question I asked of the applicant about right-of-way. What are the plans for 49th? Is there right-of-way being provided?
Good morning. For the record, Clark Davis, Transportation Planning Division Manager. The map that's on the camera shows the area that we're talking about. It shows Willow Walk there. There's an arrow pointing Willow Hammock. It's the long, almost skinny triangular piece that's up against the interstate. I'll make some marks on the map to show you where some of the thoroughfares are going to be, because this has evolved. There's existing roads. I'll mark those now, but of 69th, Mendoza, and Ellington Gillette.
Can Chris zoom it in a little? Oh, no, I guess you can't.
But outside of those roads and the interstate, the thoroughfares there are just planned roadways. And the planned roadways are conceptual alignments until things like right now, we've had Trees Direct a few years ago, but 3 recent site plan applications for developments in the area of the Willow Walk, Willowhammock, and Trevesta sites. When those come in, we start to refine the thoroughfare alignments. And so right now, what we're looking at with Willow Walk is dedication of what we think will become 49th Street Extended, Experimental Farm Road, and then coincidentally, the north-south alignment is along a 49th Avenue alignment, and so we think it'll become 49th Avenue. That's an 84-foot wide right-of-way that wraps around the edge of the property. Most of it is being reserved within the Willow Walk site. All of the full width is being reserved within the site, but some more, roughly the portions from where I marked the lines, is being dedicated. And the dedication on the east side of Willow Walk, 49th Avenue, will become the access for Willowhammock. And then there's a short section that they dedicate right off of Ellington Gillette Road, and that's for one of their emergency access points for the north half of their development. If you remember, Willow Walk is divided by the railroad, and there's not certainty that they'll be able to cross it. So to have a second means of access for more than 100 units for the portion north of the railroad, they've got an access approximately there, and then an emergency access along a short section of 49th. What the Willow Walk, or yes, the Willowhammock folks are doing in addition to that is dedicating 84 feet of what was previously called 61st, but we'll stay along this 49th Avenue alignment. It was called 61st because it's the extension of Palmview and it curves and goes south. So it's starting to look more like a grid than the sort of curvilinear road that we had before. And so 61st will get extended at some point in the future. We don't know exactly how to cross the property, and the north edge of theirs is here, but they're going to reserve 84 feet on site. They may approach the county and ask if they can dedicate. We haven't had formal conversations about that yet, but they'll be reserving for now 84 feet in a manner that stays out of the wetlands and out of the area that they're using for cut to fill the south half of the property. But that's generally how the thoroughfare plan is shaping up, and as that gets more refined, we'll bring comp plan amendments to you to update the traffic circulation tables and maps accordingly.
Okay, but it's good, because it looks like we're planning for the continuation of these roadways as we approve this development, that there will be accommodated the right-of-way necessary, at least reserved, if not dedicated. Is that correct to say?
Yes, to the extent they need them for access, they're being dedicated, and the balance is being reserved to be filled in by the county and other developers as they need it, or we need it generally for the community.
Okay, and the question came up about additional lanes on I-75. This is what I've heard. I serve on T-BARTA, and I'm very aware that DOT has stated publicly that any future lanes on I-75 will be managed lanes, paid-for lanes, Lexus lanes, whatever you want to call them, like what they're doing. So there actually is some planning underway, looking at very conceptually those kind of lanes extending through Hillsborough County. There's nothing in Manatee County, but is that your understanding too, that there, may in fact be future lanes, but that they would be the kind of pay-as-you-go lanes? You have to pay a toll. Have you heard any of that in your planning, transportation planning?
Yes, the state has undertaken a number of what they call project development environmental studies, PD&Es, but they're not as specialized, or they're not always individual project specific. They're more like corridor studies, if you will. They've done some of that in the north part of Sarasota and south part of Manatee County, and they've done stuff in the District 7 in Hillsborough County that extends into Manatee County. In general, they are planning for a future 10-lane right-of-way for I-75. There are portions of the interstate where at one point they were thinking about what they call a multimodal envelope that even had, a small corridor for future light rail or something like that in the middle of the interstate. But for the most part, they're thinking about 3 general purpose lanes and 2 special use lanes. It could be HOV lanes, some paid type thing like you were referring to a moment ago, in each direction. So a 10-lane facility. They've done, as far as I can tell, the least planning for this area, roughly between the river and 275 or Makasawala, roughly that area. They just haven't gotten to it yet. So what I've seen online is a 10-lane within a minimum of a 350-foot wide right-of-way envelope for that portion in South Hillsborough and North Manatee County, and stuff that's been planned in wider, I think just because they've got more right-of-way from the US 301 interchange at the river down farther south into the, the area where they're doing the DDI now. They have been focused more on interchanges. Some of those interchanges have special lanes that run from ramp to ramp. That's not the same special lanes that they're talking about for the 10-lane facility. So going forward, though, I think that they will try and put 10 lanes through this area, and we were looking at that on the map, and the narrowest portions are about 350 feet, and that's consistent with where they were fitting 10 lanes in the Hillsborough study.
Thank you. Thanks for that. That's very helpful for me.
No, that's
for
sort
others
of a
as
long,
well.
meandering description of it, but hopefully that made some sense.
And it's nice to know that folks are focusing on transportation planning, because it's an issue that we have big time.
Right.
Before I go to the public, I'm going to say something that I want the applicant to address. Perhaps I should have asked it when they were up here, but I'll wait, and you can address it later. Is in a perfect world, we would have a trail that runs through the middle of the site on the railroad right-of-way. Something the county's been looking at, trying to work with. I would just like comments. Obviously, I think they have the right to do such a trail on their property, but I would just like a comment from the applicant whether or not they think that would be a good thing to have a trail that runs through their development. I have been told that trails are one of the best amenities that a community can have, but just kind of curious what the applicant would think about that. And again, there's no plans. I'm just saying in a perfect world, that's something that we would like to see achieved in the future. Stephanie, you were going to just comment on the school board letter. Just let us know kind of what they stated for the record.
Stephanie Moreland, I have been sworn. Would you like the whole letter read or just a portion? Which part are you interested
You
in?
could just tell us what the school board said in regards to available capacity. Just that part probably be good enough. If you can summarize, if you really need to read the whole thing, whichever, it's up to you.
Okay. The school board indicates that this is a preliminary report. It says elementary schools do not have sufficient capacity to support the proposed land development application in School Service Area A. The contiguous School Service Area 2 does have elementary school capacity to support the proposed land development application. The available capacity in the contiguous School Service Area may be utilized to support the proposed land development application in accordance with the interlocal agreement for public school facility planning. Middle schools do have sufficient capacity to support the proposed land development application in School Service Area 1. High schools do have sufficient capacity to support the proposed land development application. Willowhammer project is not located adjacent to an existing school site and appears to be compatible with nearby school sites.
Okay, so even though they're saying the immediate area does not have capacity, adjacent does, so under the rules, you can count that, is the way I understand that.
Yes.
Just not that you can count it, you have to.
Have to count it, yes, that is the law that requires, to define school capacity, that is what the law requires us to look at. Thank you for that clarification. Commissioner DeSabatino.
That's troubling, because then they can't go to the immediate neighboring elementary school. That's upsetting to me. Regarding the wall and landscaping, do you have specifications of, landscaping on either side of the wall if they have to go that route? And then I'm concerned with the Mendoza, just 2 lanes of traffic with all these homes coming off of Mendoza. I mean, that's doesn't warrant any more study at this point.
For the record, Clark Davis, Transportation Planning. The Applicant studied it, and no additional improvements were found to be required for Mendoza itself. Our methods that we use tend to be generalized, and they also take into account improvements that are needed for previously approved development for their mitigation. So it'd probably be very nice if we could fund some improvements for Mendoza Road, but none were found necessary other than the turn lane improvements for 49th and Mendoza for the project.
And the turn lanes are paid for by the applicant or the county?
They are using 49th as their site access, so they would be found to be site-related improvements and would be done at their expense.
Okay, and how about the landscaping on either side of the wall?
Madam Chairman, Joel Christian for the record. I've been sworn. As it's currently shown, it shows it in the middle of that existing vegetated area. So it's likely that it'll be on either side. Typically, when walls are required or utilized, landscaping has to be on the outside, so that's a code requirement. But it looks like it would be on the outside of the wall.
And we can't stipulate it on the inside, or that's up to the developer? We've discussed this before on other projects, to have landscaping on either side of the wall.
I will tell you that it's a pet peeve of mine, bare walls against
Right.
roadways. They look horrible. Our code requires landscaping on the outside of the wall, so I would not support mandating that. I don't understand why you'd want it on the inside.
Inside, because, you know, when you have that whole row of houses, then they're all looking at this wall, and then it's up to the
Do you have a
homeowner.
berm, and you have, there's going to be a berm, the ball's going to be on
Yeah.
top of the berm.
Right, yeah, I just, and then they have to, each individual homeowner has to go to the expense to further landscape the backs, because normally the builders don't do that.
Well, truthfully, I wouldn't want anybody to tell me what I can plant in my backyard. I want to do my own thing. So that's how I am.
Commissioner Whitmore?
Yeah, I heard the word upsetting about the schools. We probably approved hundreds with the same letter. So I just want to, it's out of our control. I mean, we're focused on the school lately. It's been brought up here, but by law, they have the capacity. And when we went to the parish meeting, some of us did last year, Ms. Green did a wonderful presentation to the community of Parish to explain the whole thing. And maybe at a work session, we could ask her or somebody to come from the school board to explain that. But again, by law, we can't deny a project because we do have a letter that's saying that they have capacity. Am I correct, Sarah?
Yes, the state law requires us in Section 163-3180 Florida statutes regarding school concurrency to consider the contiguous service areas, and that's stated in our interlocal agreement. And school concurrency is not determined at this level of the review process, it's determined later on before either final plat or building permit is the time frame, because there's a 3-year window before you know whether concurrency is met or not. So we really don't know whether it's met or not. The school letter is only an advisory planning letter at this point.
Right.
But regardless, we have to follow state law in regards to this issue. It's not something that we can.
It's basically a proportionate share contribution. If there's not school concurrency, they pay their fair share. There's no free lunch here.
Okay, Commissioner Smith.
Yes, Madam Chair. I just want to make sure and that the buffer that we've been talking about, that it will not be a dispute later between the residents there and the developer for that property, because I've ran into a couple of situations since I've been a commissioner where it's a dispute between what you voted on and you're asking them to do it, then all of a sudden the developer say, well, I ain't gonna do that. And I've been feeling from associations and neighborhood communities that actually had the document saying, well, this is what they're supposed to do. So, I mean, I'm satisfied with what Mr. Grimes has stated. If this is actually what's going to take place with the buffer, I'm concerned about the noise issue, and that's what I mean by that, the buffer, that those things be carried out, that we don't get caught in between that and staff hold feet to the fire, that it be done properly and not saying, well, all of a sudden it's 15 feet, now it's 8 feet, because people get these documents and bring them to us.
Well, I'm going to ask staff, because they're showing on their site plan a 100-foot buffer. And buffers as shown, you have to comply with that buffer. Our standards in the plan development zoning don't allow you to arbitrarily reduce what you've shown on the site plan. Is that correct?
This buffer and site plans being approved by this board. So I have, and staff has absolutely no authority to alter what you have approved. Now, I would anticipate there's a possibility of this buffer being wider in order to meet the mitigation requirements. But at the very least, what you're approving is a 100-foot buffer with a berm and a wall. And so that's the very least that will be done here.
Okay. Yeah, and we have that stipulation which requires them to do the study, and as we said, I mean, the study, noise studies are site-specific because you got variables, you know, you got overpasses, you got things that change. So that's why that it has to be site-specific, and they're gonna have to comply with that as well, as the staff person has indicated, that, you know, that's the minimum. There may be more that they have to do to comply with that stipulation. Commissioner Baugh.
Well, just getting back to the schools a second, you know, I'm sitting here looking at a report that I have on elementary schools. There's 24 elementary schools right now that are below capacity, 7 that are over. So because of the law, the way it's written, we really can't look at that as an issue. But, you know, when we have a meeting with the school board, you know, it might be that we need to start looking or ask them to look at how they have everything lined up, because we have an awful lot of schools that are below capacity in Manatee County. I just wanted to mention that.
Okay, I don't have anyone else on the board, so we're going to go to public comment at this time. Is there anyone who would like to address the board on this rezone and site plan application? Please come forward and state your name for the record. Now is the time. If anyone would like to come forward. Seeing no one come forward, the gentleman signed up to actually speak on this, has left, but he submitted something into the record. I think he made his comments clear that his concern is about the transportation, so those comments will be entered into the record as well. So, not seeing anyone come forward, I'm going to go ahead and close the public comment portion of this. Now is the time if the board has questions of applicants, staff, or citizens, and since no citizens spoke, we're going to go ahead and let you ask questions of everybody else. Commissioner DiSabatino?
I'm just going to make a statement regarding the school capacity that we've talked about before, and that we all know that they're utilizing portables as part of their capacity. And there are many, many portables, and they haven't reduced the use of their portables, so it's hard to judge exactly how many children are in the Hardin building and how many are outside. I know in my district, when I've been riding around and meeting with them, a whole 4th or 5th grade are in portables, or an ESE class are in portables. So, you know, we've discussed this before. We're doing the impact fee study. We all get that, but I'm looking forward to the meeting with the school board. I'm just, you know, I just can't sit here and agree to the 100-foot buffer. For the single-family residential, I just think that it's just too close to the interstate. We've approved other projects in the past with it's multifamily. There's some that are single-family, but, you know, now we have new data about 10 lanes and so forth. And then the Mendoza Road is just, I think, not up to capacity. So I really just, sorry, but I can't support this project.
Commissioner Whitmore.
Well, my daughter was in a portable on Anna Maria Island. It's one of the small schools in the county, and it's a rated A, so it's not like the portables are a new thing. They've been going on for years, and she's 31, and she went to Anna Maria Elementary. So the 100-foot buffer along the interstate, since I've been up here since 2006, around 7 or 8, the former commissioners and Commissioner McClash actually supported us building along the interstate, infill versus going out east. And this is just another example of what the former commission years ago, we tried to get infill along the interstate so that this would be housing where you can get on the interstate, you can go Sarasota, Tampa, go to work. It's all up and down the interstate. A 100-foot buffer, I'm totally comfortable with because of the noise study and the attenuation that they're going to have to do. So we have approved, and all of us have approved, developments along the interstate. Trust me, it's market. If these people don't build it right, nobody's going to live there. So, and they're going to lose lots of money. So I'm sure they've done their homework. And again, this was a vision a long time ago to try to make sure that development doesn't go past the urban fringe and to push more towards the west from the urban fringe to the interstate. And that was discussed, it has been discussed over the years. So I support the project.
Okay, well, we're going to still go back to the applicant for rebuttal and staff, so, but Commissioner Smith, did you have questions? Anyone?
Yes, Madam Chair. You know, I don't know why, maybe this policy that the board has taken up, that they vote on project without having a noise study. I would like to have the noise study prior. But I would like to, thinking of staff, he mentioned that it may be some other things that he may ask, but if we don't vote for it in here, the applicant don't have to do it. I mean, what you were saying that at the minimum, what we vote for, the 100-foot buffer, and it may be some other things. I wanted to see what your thought was when you were saying some other things that may be asked of them to do.
Commissioner, the way the stipulation is written, it talks to mitigation of the noise. Again, to get to that 65 dBA, we don't know until a study is done where that line is and then what it takes to move that line back. The 100-foot buffer with the berm and wall obviously will have impact on noise, but lacking a study by an expert, I don't know what that is. Now, the expert may say you need a bigger buffer or other standards, and until we have a site-specific analysis and then recommendations from that expert as to what's necessary to achieve that particular level of outdoor noise for this specific development, we can't answer that, but we will be able to answer it once they have done the study and the expert's done his analysis and provided them with the different tools or techniques that he needs to employ in order to achieve that.
What if the expert says you need 130 feet?
Well, then,
Be required to do that?
Yes.
Okay, I just want to be sure.
Yeah, and because this is a stipulation,
Okay.
we put the county, the way the Plan Development District is set up, we always put stipulations on to assure that they're going to meet the Comprehensive Plan and Land Development Code. And this is a compatibility issue. It's an issue that's raised in our code, and our comp plan is a compatibility issue. And these studies are expensive. It's been the standard for as long as I can remember. You said 2008, I believe.
yes.
That when you have a noise issue, and I think there's even a good write-up in the staff report, I read it last night, about these kind of stipulations being added in these kind of circumstances, requiring these noise studies. Even the guy that did the basic study back then, I mean, there's very few of these experts around. That's why they can charge a lot of money,
Yeah.
the noise experts in the state. So you have to hire a noise expert to show and demonstrate. And quite frankly, when I initially heard they weren't going to do that, I was like, you know, no way. I mean, we have had this standard that we require a noise study to demonstrate that we're meeting this criteria. So I initially felt very uncomfortable when I heard that they were not going to comply with that, because that's a standard to ensure compatibility.
We are complying.
Yes.
Yes, sir.
Yeah, because that's one of my thing, too.
Okay.
Okay, all right, okay. All right, I'm fine.
All right. Any other questions? I would like staff to comment. We heard that this is new information on 10 lanes on the interstate. I don't believe this is new information on 10 lanes. This study has been around since back when I was doing rezone applications. At least I can think of an application that I had along the interstate. The 10 lane was very big as a concern. Matter of fact, if you look at the thoroughfare plan with that little asterisk, it was put there in our comprehensive plan because of the 10 lanes. So I don't think that's new information, but I'm going to ask staff to comment on that.
Thank you. For the record, Clark Davis, Transportation Planning. The comprehensive plan that was in effect when I came on board in 2013 dated back to 2010. The traffic circulation plan in our comprehensive plan is Table 5-1 in what we call the MAP 5 series. Table 5-1 lists all the roads and their characteristics, and on that table, I-75 is listed as a 10-lane facility. So it's been that way in the comp plan for at least 5 years, but I imagine it goes back farther than that. And MAP 5D shows our thoroughfare plan by lanes, and it shows that there's 10 lanes on I-75 throughout the county, from South County line to North County line. So it may be new as in this decade, but it's not new as in this week.
Okay, thank you. All right, we're going to go ahead to staff closing comments. Anything staff needs to add?
Stephanie Moreland for staff, and I've been sworn. I don't really have any new information or anything to add. You went over the study that Mr. Gary Seebine did in 2008. The board had a workshop then, and that study was introduced. That's how we came up with the language that we had back in 2008. That's what we followed. That is in your report. That is a part of the package. That is before you. I don't really have anything else to add.
Okay, then we'll go to applicant rebuttal.
I think we've got three of us that would like to just address some of the comments. When we came in for a pre-app on this project, at the very beginning, staff recommended the 100-foot buffer, and we agreed to that right off the bat. And how that's designed and how that noise study comes back, we will adjust it accordingly. We want to have a nice community here that's not affected by noise to the best of our ability. So, with that noise study that comes out, we'll do everything that we can to make sure that we're meeting those requirements, and we'll continue to work with staff on the project. I don't want anyone at the dais to feel like we don't want to have a nice community, that we don't want to have future issues with our residents. And I'm going to turn it over to Caleb and to James Brierly.
There you go.
Good morning. For the record, my name is James Brierly. I represent Soho Mendoza, and I have been sworn. And I just want to thank you all for your time. I know this has been a longer than usual agenda item, but this is Soho Mendoza's first deal in Manatee County, and collectively the partners of Soho Mendoza have developed thousands of lots and homes throughout Florida. We're based I'm in Sarasota, and we have an office in Tampa, so we're excited to be. We're not local to Manatee County, but we're excited to be soon. So, and we're here to build a good subdivision. So, the only thing I'm here to address specifically is the trail system, and we're fired up about it. Jeb, our engineer, when we went to this site, he goes, "Man, I ride my mountain bike along that railroad track. I know the site well, So we think a great amenity for the neighborhood is kind of that northern piece that had some development challenges and had a lot of entitlements. But we said, at the end of the day, it's just not worth it, And it's from a development standpoint, it's a nice way to kind of keep a protected piece of land in an infill area and we think it could be a really cool bike system, trail system, and that's all I've got. So thanks for your time. I appreciate it.
Okay, thank you.
Caleb Grimes, and I'm going to be real short, but I did want to address, even though we had heard the same things that Mr. Davis said, that up north they're talking about widening, and south we're talking about widening. We've not heard it here, but I want to make it very clear, everything we have in here is studying as if 10 lanes. There is nothing in here that suggests we're doing anything short of studying it based on it being 10 lanes. And I do appreciate that on the noise, we have worked very hard with your staff to assure that what happens is when you do this noise study, you not only look at where your 65 dBA is, you then look at all of the things to mitigate any home that could have been in that previous 65 dBA. You move the dBA and/or you make improvements to the homes to assure that everything is correct. And Commissioner Smith is correct. In the years ago, we ended up with problems, and that's why this stipulation has been put in. And I do want to make sure everybody understands, as Commissioner Benak said, these are not cheap. So you don't do the study until you know what you have approved. If you do a study and the site plan and the approval changes, then you're back doing it again. So what we have done is said, we're going to make sure you do it before you turn dirt out there, before you put get approval to put a road in, before you get approval to put a house in. We're going to do this study and make sure this community, this county, and your residents are protected. And we appreciate everything that you've done. Your questions were great today. And I do want to thank Robin and Sarah and the rest of the staff for helping us work through this so that we have something really good for the county going forward. Thank you.
Okay, I've got no one on the board, so which is the stipulation, what number stipulation is it that we'd be changing based on?
Number 9, is it? What's
9.
9.
9?
Well, it's the 9th stipulation.
I'm trying to read through it real quick, so if somebody.
Yes.
Clerk has it.
In stipulation A4,
A4, okay, A4. And just from staff's and the county attorney's perspective, we feel that this is implementing the policy on noise protection?
From staff's perspective, yes, ma'am.
yes, it makes it clearer that you do the study and what you do after the study to mitigate.
Okay. All right, so Commissioner Whitmore.
I move to approve the staff's recommended motion and add stipulation A4.
I second the motion.
I think it's an amendment to stipulation A4.
Okay.
Yes.
Okay. So you okay with that,
Yep.
both of you? The motioner and the seconder?
I'm okay with it. I'm still learning though, and the before study, after study, I understand the financial aspects of it, and okay, I'm fine.
Okay, great. All right, motion and a second. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay.
Nay.
Chair votes aye. Motion passes 5-1. Okay. All right, well, thank you.
We have a 5-minute break.
I think it was a good discussion. Let's have a 5-minute break till we get to the last item of comments.
He's getting ready for this.
Okay, we're going to go ahead and reconvene our meeting. We're on item number 10. If you'd like to read that in the record, Robin.
I will read this long one into the record, Madam Chair. This is LDA-14-04, Local Development Agreement for OK Trevesta LLC. And this is approval of a local development agreement, LDA 14-04, providing that the applicant shall design and construct stormwater management facilities, providing that the applicant shall construct additional wastewater service facilities subject to county reimbursement, providing for reservation of line capacity for wastewater service for the development project, providing applicant shall construct or pay proportionate share amount for off-site concurrency-related improvements at the intersection of 69th Street East and Ellington Gillette Road, at 69th Street East and Buffalo Road, 60th Avenue East, and at Ellington Gillette Road and Palm View Road, providing the applicant shall construct other transportation improvements which may be impact fee creditable for the dedication and construction of Buffalo Road / 60th Avenue East and a sidewalk along 69th Street East. The project to Fresh Meadows, establishing applicant's proportionate fair share of improvements to 69th Street East and Ellington Gillette Road turn lanes, 69th Street and Buffalo Road / 60th Avenue East turn lanes, and Ellington Gillette Road and Palm View Road signal, allowing county to grant the applicant proportionate share mitigation or impact fee credits for the design, permitting, and construction and/or dedication of such transportation improvements in such amounts as authorized by ordinance, providing for impact fee credits, providing for the duration of the CLOS to be extended to 6 years. The local development agreement applies to Trevesta Development, for which approval was granted on January 8th, 2015 pursuant to an application known as PDMU-14-22, which is 441.3 acres. The proposed use of the property is mixed development. Trevesta was approved for a maximum of 803 single-family detached residential units, a maximum of 300 multifamily residential units, and a maximum of 100,000 square feet of commercial uses, a maximum net residential gross density of 3.3 dwelling units per acre, and a maximum height of 35 feet. The site is located in the planned development mixed-use district, zoning district, and generally bounded by FPL Railroad right-of-way on the south, I-75 on the west, 69th Street East on the north, and Kew Gardens Fresh Meadows on the east.
Okay, well, we'll hear some introductory comments, and then we'll turn it over to the applicant for their presentation.
Okay, Mr. Meyer covered most of it. I would like to make a couple of housekeeping and procedural comments related to the LDA. This is the first of 2 public hearings. The second public hearing will be on June 16th at your regular board meeting in these commission chambers at 9 a.m. or as soon thereafter as it can be heard. In your staff agenda memo, there's reference to an alternate connection agreement in here. I believe the memo inherited some language from another LDA. There is no alternate connection being proposed. There is some I'm going to get it right here in a second, wastewater line being constructed on the site, but it's not an alternate connection to the system. And then finally, in your update memo this morning, it referenced an underline and strike through version of the agreement. This is a new agreement, so it should be presented for your consideration and if approved for the chair's signature as a clean document. And so we'll make sure that those references are correct and we've got the clean document in the final. So this is a new LDA related to the Trevesta development, and I will reserve my overview of it until after the applicant has made their presentation.
Okay. Any ex parte communication on this issue? Any board member? Okay. As I said during the rezone, I did drive around out here to look at the site and stuff, but that was at the rezone phase. But I guess that might have been during the application phase, so I just want to say that I've been to the site. I think many of us might have been to the site, who knows. Okay, we'll go ahead and hear from the applicant.
Thank you, Commissioners. My name is Bill Merrill. I have been sworn, and I'm here on behalf of OK Trevesta, the applicant for the LDA. As Clark mentioned, this is a previous PDMU rezoning that occurred back a while back, and the property, I just wanted to show you generally, if you don't recall, the property is located where it's shown on the aerial. Next to I-75, south of 69, the north of the FPL right-of-way.
We have the overhead camera to show the aerial where he was just pointing to? Okay.
FPL right-of-way, 69th, I-75.
Okay.
And what we're here today is not about the rezoning. It's about the improvements that the project is going to be bringing to the area, which are quite substantial. And what I'd like to do is just kind of give you an overview of that. This is all laid out in the LDA. But to begin with, the applicant, and what I'll do is I'll put on the, if we can maybe focus in on this a little bit.
Can we zoom in?
You can see this is the boundary of the property.
Yeah.
Too much.
And this is 69th at the top. We've got I-75 over here, and this is the future Buffalo Road that will be coming down and extending all the way to the south on the property. And to begin with, what the applicant is proposing to do and worked out with the county, and I also wanted to mention, I've been asked to mention this, we are voluntarily entering into this LDA, and so our clients are certainly interested. I also want to mention that we very much appreciate all the work that Bill Clegg from the County Attorney's Office has put into this, Sia Molinazar, and Clark Davis, and of course Dan Schlant. I mean, we had a lot of meetings. I mean, a lot of meetings, and went through this and worked through it. And again, I think everyone's satisfied with it. The applicant initially is in the agreement is going to be constructing a 12-inch sanitary sewer force main through the site, which will be reimbursed by the county, but that's going to go, the current force main is along, maybe we need to pull it out, I'm sorry, a little bit, there you go. The current force main goes along 69th here, and then it would go over across I-75, and so what we're doing is we're providing both the right-of-way as well as building that in the future when the county needs that for the sanitary sewer force main, for the 12-inch force main. So that ultimately would, and I think Clark, I believe, was putting up a drawing earlier where those go. So that force main fits into the overall master plan. You have it along here going down future Buffalo and then cutting across 75 and then reconnecting over at Willow Walk on the other side of the interstate. In addition to the sanitary sewer force main, we had a prop share requirements that included intersections, like 3 intersections around the county, one at 69th and Ellington Gillette, one at 69th and Buffalo, and one at Palmview and Ellington Gillette. And rather than doing those, the county staff wanted us to, and the prop share for that is estimated to be about $345,646. I say estimated, but roughly $345,000. Rather than doing that, the county asked us to do some other improvements, some of which are included in that, but that they felt would be more impactful. And so what we'd be doing in that regard is other improvements that actually total about, again, an estimate, preliminary estimate is about $777,723. So about 2.25 times the required prop share amount that would otherwise be required. And I'll go through that list in a second. In addition, we talked about this at the rezoning, but in addition, we'd be, once the right-of-way is available, we'd be doing the connection of the sidewalk on the south side of 69th. And then also we'd be doing some improvements, and as you recall, a signalization issue, once that is warranted, at 69th and Buffalo Road. The roadway improvements that we're talking about today and that are included in the plan, and that's primarily in section 10B if you happen to be looking at the land development agreement. But in section 10B, the requirements that we would be doing would be roughly $324,600 worth of right-of-way for Buffalo Road. That would be the full 120-foot wide right-of-way extending from 69th all the way south to the southern boundary to where the FPL right-of-way is, which is our southern boundary. Now, on the other side of the FPL right-of-way, you have additional right-of-way that would be connecting. So this bottom connection here will have to be aligned. You know, it'll need to be aligned, but we think it's aligned, but it will need to make sure that it's aligned with that southern right-of-way south of FPL right-of-way that's down there now. In addition to the right-of-way, we'll also be constructing the 69th and Buffalo turn lanes. There's some added turn lanes that will be required for this intersection. And then also we'll be constructing Buffalo Road through the site to the extent required to provide access to the project, which goes, and I've highlighted that in pink just so it's easier to see, all the way down to this point. So the actual Buffalo Road will be constructing down to this point as we need it for access. Then from this point down, I've highlighted in yellow, although it's 120-foot wide right-of-way the entire length, this portion would be just right-of-way here because there's no additional access needed by the project at this point. In addition to the road right-of-way and in addition to the road construction, we'd also be dedicating and preparing the stormwater facilities that are needed for the road improvements that we're talking about here. And that's an additional estimated $74,000 of value that would be added as well. As part of this, so we have 777,000 roughly of prop share projects that would be done here. Out of that, we're going to be using about $442,200 for a 3-year extension of CLOS. So rather than having the typical 3-year, we're asking in this LDA for 6 years. So it will give us a total of 6 years, $442,200 would be paid for that. That's the $100 per year per unit plus the equivalent for the commercial. So that's all laid out in there as well. So again, the improvements they're doing are rather extensive. They're 2.25 times what the prop share would otherwise require, plus they are accommodating the county on their master sewer utility plan to make sure that you have the right-of-way, that 12-inch force main will be added during our construction and so forth. The sidewalk is the other benefit in that regard as well. So again, these are all positives for the county. This is kind of what followed the rezone where there were some issues, but this really doesn't involve the rezone anymore. Now it's about the improvements that are being done and making sure that it accommodates these issues. And of course, we all know Buffalo Road's a very important north-south connector road there once that goes through. So we're looking forward to that. I'll be happy to answer any questions. Again, we really appreciate all the hard work and the time and effort that was put in by staff on this and the county attorney's office. And I think they've kind of been very thorough in that regard in going through all these things. So thank you again. I'll be happy to answer any questions. We do also have our engineer, both our transportation engineer and our civil engineer, if we have any questions for them.
Okay,
Thank you.
any questions? Okay, well, I have one. If you could explain kind of the phasing of your development, just give us an update on what the phasing is and where you are today and what's moving forward and when these improvements might be going forward.
I think I want to have our civil engineer, Matt Morris, come down here. He's our professional engineer. He's more familiar with that. I know it generally, but.
Good morning. Matt Morris, and actually I've not been sworn.
Anyone else? Do you swear or affirm that the factual statements and factual representations which you're about to present to this board will be truthful and accurate?
I do.
Thank you.
Essentially, we've submitted for final site plan and construction plan approval for our first phase, and we're kind of nearing the end of that process and expect to have our sign-offs and have our permits in hand within the next couple of weeks. And that's essentially everything that you see kind of modded out on this site plan up in the northern phase, what we're calling Village A, Village C, and Village D is in dog. And that includes the construction of the 4 lanes of the Buffalo Road extension, just to the south side of our commercial component here, and then 2 lanes down to this residential entrance here. Obviously includes the construction of this, the other access road down as well. And then we're proposing to construct the stormwater ponds in Village B and do some mass earthwork in Village B area there. But other than that, we'd basically be starting there and then kind of working our way south, as the development happens.
So everything that's shown and shaded here is phase 1?
Correct.
The lot, yeah, the lot's
Lot
so
layout.
shaded.
That's right.
And it does not include the commercial.
Okay. All right. That's the only question I had. Anyone else? Okay. Well, we'll go ahead and go to staff. You have anything you would like to add?
Mr. Merrill covered most of it. I would like to add a couple of notes about the concurrency-related improvements and the dollar amounts. The map that's on the screen shows Trivesta in relationship to the major road network in the area. And there are 3 intersections here that are circled. There's Buffalo at 69th, 69th at Ellen Gillette, and Palmview at Ellington Gillette. The improvements at these locations total about $345,000. $220,000 of that is for the 2 that are remote from the site on Ellington Gillette. Those are ones that are being put towards prop share for the project. So if you were to go through the agreement and chase all the money, so to speak, you'd come up with a number that's around $1 million. But $220,000 of that is is a prop share payment that's realized in other improvements, and so that's how you get at the approximate $770,000 that Mr. Merrill was providing to you a moment ago. They are doing the improvements at Buffalo and 69th. That is the project entrance, and because it's a major intersection of thoroughfares, it's also counted as a concurrency improvement. But they're making improvements there and extending 60th into the site, as Mr. Merrill described. Other than that, Mr. Merrill summarized it well, and I don't have anything else to add, but I can answer your questions if you have any.
Okay. Any questions for staff? Okay, no questions for staff. We'll go ahead and go to public comment at this time. Is there anyone who'd like to address the board on this LDA application? Please come forward and state your name for the record, and you'll have 3 minutes to address the board.
Sunglasses.
Hello, ladies and gentlemen. My name is John Ward. I have not been sworn.
Do you swear or affirm that the factual statements and factual representations which you're about to present to this board will be truthful and accurate?
I do.
Thank you.
Point of order, Madam Chair. If he has a problem seeing, I understand, but if not, do you need to wear your sunglasses? I know you presented
Prescription
before.
sunglasses, ma'am.
But I was just asking. Okay, good, because before you didn't wear them, so I'm just curious.
Well, I forgot my
Okay.
other glasses.
Okay.
Okay. Well, ladies and gentlemen, again, we're back here on the Trevista thing. You know, according to Mr. Merrill, with folks like Mr. Merrill around, we definitely don't need any other friends because he just given away the farm. The deal is that I'm here representing Fresh Meadows and all accompanied parties that are with them, and we basically come up with a kind of a trifecta plan, if you will. This is kind of a three-part plan, and I believe that some other people know about this, but I just want to make this for public record. At the first initial hearings in January, there was several civil rights violations that had occurred, and
Sir,
we have not
please
yet
address this.
addressed those here as of yet. And what the trifecta plan is basically going to look like here is we're going to address the civil rights violations, and accompanied with the civil rights violations, we're going to be looking at a subsequent injunction against Coulter, Mr. Merrill, and his entire team. And what we're looking to do is shut down construction and all of the handouts that he's so forth put, before the board here today. And also, too, we'll be working with the state attorney's office here to take a look at, and I'd put this in writing to the board before, about official misconduct. Nobody seemed to want to listen to me, but I assure you, you will be listening to me before this is all over with. And we'll be working with the state attorney's office to go ahead and move forward in that direction. Okay? And that'll include most of you. Not you, Robin. We like you.
Imagine.
Anyways, I'm done. Y'all have a great day.
Thank you. Is there anyone else who'd like to address the board on this application? Please come forward, state your name for the record. Okay, seeing no one else come forward, I'm going to go ahead and close the public comment portion of this hearing. Are there any closing comments from staff?
I have no further comments.
Okay. Any rebuttal from the applicant? No further comments, thank you. Okay. So at this point, it's time for deliberations and action from the board.
Madam Chair, there's no vote required. This is the first
Oh,
of two public
yes.
hearings.
Reminded me.
The second public hearing will be scheduled for June 16th, 2015, at which a vote will occur.
Okay, thank you.
And Madam Chair, I have a
Yes.
question of our attorney. The citizen that came up that made all these threats, do you have any comments regarding that, Madam
No,
Attorney?
there's threat and litigation. We'll wait and see whether he files or respond in appropriate form.
Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else? Okay, at this time, we're going to close this public hearing. We're ready to move forward to the commissioner comments. The next date for the second public hearing of this is June 16th. It isn't a continuation, it's just that we need two public hearings, so the second public hearing will be held on June 16th, 2015, beginning at 9 a.m. or soon thereafter. Okay, well, that does complete our agenda. It's time if there's any comments. Anyone have anything they want to add today? Okay, as you all know, we do have a hearing this evening, beginning at 6 p.m. This is for the Land Development Code changes that we already heard and we've discussed, but this is the second public hearing tonight at 6:00 PM here in these chambers on the Land Development Code ordinance amendment.
It's the cleanup, not, just so the public knows.
It's amended and restated Land Development Code.
Amended and restated Land Development Code, public hearing tonight at 6:00. Anything else for the good of the order? Okay, not hearing anything, we are adjourned.